welcome everyone to our, let's see, well, I've got to figure out what the date is. April 7th, 2026, Ogden City Council meeting. Let the record reflect that all council members are present in the meeting today. We're going to start our opening ceremony today. We have the pleasure of having our Ogden City Police Honor Guard, and they're going to do the presentation of the colors, and then we'll be led for the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll turn the opening ceremony over to them at this point. So.
Honor guard, halt. Left, face. Present, arms.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Close, colors. Honor guard, face. Forward, march.
Thank you. As part of our celebration of the America 250, I've got a little presentation to read, and it's appropriate this month. No taxation without representation. No taxation without representation was a political slogan used by American colonists protesting British rule in the 1760s after years of allowing the colonists to rule themselves. After the French and Indian War in 1754 through 1763, the British government was in a huge amount of debt. To repay the debt, they began implementing new taxes on American colonies. To the British, the whole purpose of having overseas colonies was to enrich their empire, and they saw it as their right to raise taxes at their discretion in the 13 colonies. The amount of taxes was not the issue. The colonists' main argument against them was that they were implemented without their input. Crucially, colonists argued that it was unfair that in return for the taxes they paid, they had no representation in the British Parliament. They had no say in how much tax they would pay or how the money would be spent. No taxation without representation meant that the patriots felt unjustly treated by the British and wanted political representation, at the very least in return for the taxes they paid. The term has since been used by various other groups advocating for representation, such as the women's suffrage movement, advocates of District of Columbia, voting rights, and students seeking to be included in governance in higher education. This year is exciting that we're going to revisit through this whole American Revolution and how we got to where we are today. So thank you for listening to that. We have, if you would now join me for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And we have acknowledgements, and we have a few that I expect. I think maybe we'll start with Kevin.
Great, yeah. Chair, I'd like to acknowledge Project Success Coalition's Youth Council, and that they are celebrating Take Down Tobacco Day on Friday, April 10th at Lester Park from 4 to 6. And I'd like to invite Miss Betty or anybody from the Youth Council to come up and just tell us a little bit about that, just maybe and or one of. Thank you.
Welcome, Miss Betty.
Thank you. Good to see everyone. Look, full house tonight. We're excited. We have with us Maisie Scriven, who is our Youth Council advisor, and she'll introduce her youth leadership. And the rest of you all stand up so they can see you.
Good-looking group.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maisie Scriven, and this is Casey Aguela. He's our president in our Harambe Youth Council, and he's going to let you know a little bit about what we do. Thank you.
How y'all doing? So I'm the president of Project Success, and my name is Casey Arguello, as it was previously stated. We do a lot of missions to regard with our youth and trying to take down tobacco and smoking products that harm the youth in our schools. What we aim is we want to create a strong youth group and a strong connection with our community to try to take out harmful substances and to try to tackle a lot of issues that we have, not with just youth, but in Americans in general. We plan to celebrate and to honor and recognize Take Down Tobacco Day, which is normally celebrated on the 1st of April as a way to kind of say that companies that sell tobacco products, they're not really messing around when they want to try to get you hooked on their product. But we will just host ours on Friday, and we're more aiming to just connect with the community and not to really force anything onto people, just to try to get people to be educated and to try to look at a different perspective that is a lot more healthy and a lot more beneficial to everybody in a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the work you do in our community and to the Youth Council, and it was great to hear from you.
Okay, we have another acknowledgement. Councilmember Ritchie.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. I think since 1983, April has been recognized as Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time to raise awareness and recommit ourselves to protecting the most vulnerable in our community. The reality is sobering. Data from the Centers for Disease Control Prevention shows that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys will experience sexual abuse during childhood. Many cases go unreported, hidden by fear, shame, or circumstances that prevent a child from speaking out. Behind these numbers are real children whose safety, trust, and well-being have been impacted, and this is not just a national issue, it exists here in Ogden. April represents hope. It reminds us that child abuse is preventable when communities come together through awareness, early intervention, and support for families. Throughout this month, you'll see blue ribbons and pinwheels as symbols for both awareness and the kind of safe, joyful childhood every child deserves. This issue is personal for me. My daughter is graduating from Weber State in social work and has been working at the Christmas Box House, where she's seen firsthand the reality many children face and the incredible impact of community that steps in to help. The Ogden Christmas Box House has served over 6,000 children, providing not just safety, but a path forward towards healing. As a community, we all have a role to support families, to recognize the signs, to speak up, and to invest in programs that protect our children. Here in Ogden, we have a number of organizations that are valuable and engaging in this work. The YCC is one. Family Promise of Ogden is another one. And I think if we can all take an opportunity to see how we can help bring awareness and invest in those programs and help to protect our children. Ultimately, the measure of our community is how well it protects those who depend on us the most.
Thank you. Any more? Any more acknowledgements? I think there is one more in there. Oh, okay. Let's okay, there we are. Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is recognition. It's for Weber State University dance team. And so Councilmember Washington is going to present that for us.
Thank you. It's an honor to present this. As of now, do we have anyone from the Weber State University dance team? Yes, hello, come on up. I'll just start with reading this and then we can, thank you. So the Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognizes the 2025-2026 Weber State University dance team for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. The Weber State University dance team made history by winning first place in the Division I Hip Hop at the prestigious Universal Dance Association National Championship held January 16th through the 18th at the ESPN Worldwide of Sports Complex at Walt Disney World in Florida, widely regarded as the Super Bowl of dance. The competition marked the Wildcats' debut at the UDA National Championship. In addition to their national title in hip hop, the team also earned a third-place finish in the jazz division. Insert jazz hands. This victory marks the program's 8th national title in the past 6 years and the 6th hip hop national championship in its history. Their historic accomplishment also earned recognition from the Utah State Senate, which stands as a testament to their discipline and pride in representing Weber State University and the Ogden community. We commend the student athletes and coaching staff led by Spirit Squad Director Summer Willis and dance coach Erica Jordan for their dedication and continued success. The team continues to set the standard for excellence, representing both Weber State University and Ogden City with distinction on the national stage. Presented on this day, the 7th day of April, 2026. Thank you so much. You can go ahead and keep clapping.
You're great right there. I just gotta get folks behind you in order. Come on, guys. Get it together. All right, find a window. There you go. All right, look at here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more for insurance. 2, 3. Thank you. If you want to say some words to the city council.
Can you shake your
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Do we need to?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's just so you can.
So I'm Erica Jordan. I have been the head coach the past 6 years, and it has always been a goal for us to go to this Super Bowl of dance competition. So we just feel so honored that we not only could represent the university, but our community as well, and bring home another national championship. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Weber State is always tops in their field in that all those things. It's really fun to watch those dance groups and at the games and whatnot. They excel. So thank you very much. Okay, now the next item on our agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas on any topic. So if you would please come to the podium, give us your name and your city, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if you kind of build a little queue, that saves a little time in between people, so that'd be swell.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to City Council and the Mayor. I'm Joseph Bauman. I'm a long-lying resident of Ogden City, and I missed the meeting a couple weeks ago, and I didn't realize that you guys had so much excitement and drama going on. If I'd have known, I would have ordered candy and popcorn and drinks for you. And the mayor was out of town doing a commendable thing, and I'd like to commend the current city council and the mayor and the past city council for the allocation of the funding through the adjustment for the police officers and the fire department, because through that we were able to maintain and hold quality people and hire better people that come into the system. And to accolade that, what the mayor was doing a couple weeks ago, the police chief was awarded the best police chief by his peers in the whole entire state of Utah. And also the detective was named the best police officer in Ogden City, which is not a usual thing that happens for two people to be named out of the same municipality, and you take a city the size of Ogden. So congratulations for doing what you do. The main thing I wanted to talk about was the ice facility. I'm president of the Ogden City Building and Fire Appeal Board, and I watched the YouTube and a lot of the comments that were made and stuff about the ice facility. It's not a mayor issue and it's not a city council issue. If anything, it would be the building department would be accountable, but even they are not accountable. That people that if they want to call somebody, have them call Tom Holman, who's the director of the ICE for the federal appointed by President Trump, so they can call him and comment to him about it. The other thing I wanted to comment on is our water. I also sit on two boards with Pineview Water Systems, and third one I sit in on for the Pineview Water System. And I don't know if any of you got this notice in the mail, but Weber Basin, they're going to turn the water on May the 15th. Well, we have an excellent district manager and an office manager with the Pineview Water Systems, and you as well have a great manager, Brady Hurd, who's your director for Ogden City Water, that we do not have to turn on until we're turning ours on April the 20th. And the only reason why it's not the 15th, because we needed 5 extra days for infrastructure. And they're turning off September the 15th, a whole month early. And as of now, Pineview's not going to do that yet. So I just wanted to make those couple of comments and let you know that Ogden City is a great city to live in, and we're on the right track. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to get a little fanfare when you get some public, some positive comments.
The play you off music. My name is Rod Perry, and I want to speak in support of the Community Renewable Program, but for kind of an unusual reason. The number one problem for Americans right now is affordability. And the component of affordability that has gone up the most in the last year is energy. It's rising at a rate that's twice the rate of underlying inflation. So what most people don't realize, I'm going to try to save 1,000 words here with a picture, is the price of renewable energy has gone down to the point where it costs less than any fossil fuel source and nuclear. So this line is solar, this is wind, and those trends will continue into the future. So my message is, if we're going to solve the affordability issue with regard to energy in the United States, the only way we can do it is to change to renewable resources. So your support of that program will create more opportunities for people to manufacture and install this equipment, and then that just snowballs to the point where we can save more money. I'll give you 2 quick examples. The state of Texas has the most free market with regard to energy. The last 3 years, 90% plus of their new electrical generation has been renewables. Texas, you know what goes on in Texas, oil and gas. But when it comes to economics, renewables are winning on price. The other example is the state of South Australia, 70% renewables. Their power bills went down 30% last year. They have so much solar power that they give it away for 3 hours every day. And guess what that's attracting? A lot of businesses in manufacturing that want to lower their cost of operation. So renewables hold the opportunity to improve affordability. Thank you.
What's your city, Todd?
Ridgedale Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, Ogden. Thanks.
Thank you, Rod.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can't do the clapping and things. That just doesn't work very well. So thank you for holding your emotions. Yes.
Hello, Emily Fox, Ogden resident. I actually brought Cliff Notes to try and stay in time because I could probably do a TED Talk on this subject. But I want to share something that's helped me in my life, and I hope that by sharing it here, if received by those, it's something that we can all use to be more productive and maybe feel less attacked. A manager once told me during a one-on-one, perception is reality. Perception as reality is a simplified truth. A more accurate statement would be people's perception of you is their reality. And perception in the context we're looking at here is the story people tell themselves about something based on what they can see through their window, and their window is themselves. Typically, people deal with receiving other people's perception in three ways. The default way is they're just existing and they'll have feelings when they receive somebody's perception about them, but they just have their feelings and then continue existing as they are. As humans, though, what we feel does also direct our actions, and sometimes this leads us in one of two directions. Either we acknowledge and change ourselves in an effort to change the perception, or we try to influence a change in perception by explaining or adding more context. The extremes on either side of that would be either being a people pleaser or a narcissist and con man. Sometimes explaining and adding context can make a world of a difference, and sometimes legitimate concerns and feedback are brought to light. But the best course of action most of the time is just to do nothing, because people are going to continue to think what they think. But I bring this up because I believe if someone takes on the role of a public office, you accept that yourself, your role, and the work you signed up to do publicly is publicly perceived. And you no longer have the luxury of just letting people think what they think. How you manage the public's perception of you will determine the legacy you leave and whether you're reelected. As a public servant, actions and results speak louder than words. With that said, I want to share that there's a growing perception that this city's administration is being dismissive of legitimate concerns, and that from our perspective, there are actionable ways to address them. And instead of action, we have been met with straw man, deflection, and some gaslighting. I'm not sharing this to throw daggers. I'm hoping that this inspires some reflection and maybe adjustment on how you handle improving the public's perception. And I want to close on a quote I came across this week. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, by Edmund Burke. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is David Belknap, and I live in West Haven. I'm speaking today as a member of the League of Women Voters of Weber County. I'd like to begin with a little bit of personal background of my family. My great-great-great-grandfather, Gilbert Belknap, was one of the first elected sheriffs of Weber County and served in that role for 14 years. During his time, he dealt with train robbers, gamblers, and other criminals, all while earning just $80 a month and providing his own horse and equipment. In 1977, when I was just 10 years old, I got myself into a little bit of trouble. Because I had responsible parents, the police left it to them to discipline me. Back then, policing was about helping people. It wasn't about finding charges. It wasn't about finding solutions. Today, that approach feels very different, and it often seems that officers are trained first to look for what they can charge someone with, regardless of whether that person is causing trouble or simply asking for help. If you need assistance, you'd better be completely squeaky clean, or you risk of being penalized instead of being supported. I share this because public trust in law enforcement is at a critical point, and now the Weber County Sheriff's Office is requesting a significant increase in manpower. West Haven alone is being asked to contribute nearly $800,000 annually to fund 10 additional deputies. As you prepare for your fiscal 27 budget, I urge you to consider a few important questions. First, have you been asked to increase your budget to support additional manpower for the Sheriff's Office? Second, if so, how many other cities have been asked to do the same? I understand that our county grows. There are times when more officers are needed. However, I'm concerned that we may be reaching an inflection point where cities and committing too much funding, power, and personnel to the sheriff's office without sufficient coordination or oversight. This concern is especially relevant in light of the 287G agreement. I respectfully ask you to reach out to neighboring cities, understand what they are being asked to contribute, and have a broader conversation of what level of staffing and funding is truly necessary to serve and protect the residents of our communities and what might be too much. And since you brought it all up, my relative Jesse Belknap was in the war and 250 years ago. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, David.
Hello, everyone. Mark Stevenson, proud resident of Ogden since 1996. And I'm here this evening to urge each and every one of you to vote in favor of Ogden's participation in the Utah Renewable Communities Renewable Energy Program. I listened in to the work session that you just had, so I know you've been given a pretty good insight into most of the details of the program, so I won't rehearse all that here. As the gentleman earlier mentioned, it is about affordability, but it's also about choice. It's presented as an opt-out program, which I know is difficult for some people to accept. But the point is, we're all opted into Rocky Mountain Power's system as it exists now, and we have no choice. And this is giving people the option to choose renewable energy in a way that is unbelievably accessible, affordable, and with the choice to remain with the system they have now. And I would just invite you to consider the larger policy context of what's happening. 2 years ago, summer of 2024, Rocky Mountain Power proposed a 30.5% increase in ratepayers' electricity rates for the entire region. After a lot of pushback and outrage from constituents, from customers, from the governor and the legislature, they backed off. But those imperatives are not going away. The demand for energy is increasing exponentially with the building of data centers everywhere. Our grid is already stretched to capacity, and adding this amount of renewable energy sources to the mix, which Rocky Mountain Power recently decided to back away from completely, except for this program, because of all the other expenses they've incurred through fire losses, insurance damage, and everything else they've had to pay for. This is the best way to ensure that people who opt into the program are insulated from those kinds of excessive cost increases in the future. They're dedicated to keeping coal going as long as possible because they've decided they can't afford the investment in renewable energy. It's dirty, it's inefficient, it's not cost competitive, but they're going to stretch those plants as long as they can for every inch of value they can extract from them. And Utah ratepayers are going to pay the costs associated with that. So I would urge you to just give the people of Ogden the choice to opt out of that mess and into something that's going to give them a much better future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Hello, I'm David Farrow. I'm a resident of Ogden and the Dean Emeritus of Engineering, Applied Science and Technology at Weber State. I just wanted to also echo the people who have come up before to talk about the renewable energy program. I don't think it's going to be very long before we're patting ourselves on the back for getting such a great rate for energy generation. I am fully cognizant that we're going to be doing everything above the line in terms of generation for the next number of years, including nuclear, including coal. In some cases, like nuclear, I'm really very supportive, but it's going to take a while to generate the real active generation of that power. Coal, I'm not so excited about. I'd rather see coal used for composite material and not burned, which a number of people in the coal industry are also excited about, but that too is taking its time. So the bottom line is, I am here to thank you for your prescient view of being involved in these communities. The council, former members of the council, the mayor, former mayor, their staff, and this community, thank you all for having such foresight to be one of these 19 communities, and we're going to be better off for it. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Good evening. My name is William Mitchell. I'm a resident of Ogden. So yeah, to the individual that came and said we should call Tom Homan, that'd be great. If you can give me his number, that'd be awesome. I've reached out to every senator of the state, every representative, and I've come and I've spoken here every time I've been in the city for a city council meeting. We have a situation, right? We have a situation where, by your own admission, a federal agency has gone rogue. They have committed crimes against American citizens and non-citizens alike. This is an Ogden City issue. We have them on record violating their CUP. Again, I asked last week, I'll ask again. What is the point of a CUP if you're not going to enforce it? At the very least, you have the power to bring them in and ask them questions. You can make them sign a new CUP. From my perspective, and I think the perspective of some others, this isn't necessarily about stopping ICE entirely. It is about bringing forth a little bit of accountability. It's about showing them that we are asking questions. This city has a right to protect itself and those who live within it. And secondarily, how much federal funding is it worth? What are you selling your people out for? Why? I can't understand why, when I sign a lease, I have to abide by the rules. If I break it, there are consequences. So are you trying to communicate to the feds there are no consequences? I would just implore you, we're doing everything we can. I am, the people behind me that are interested in ICE or holding the feds to some account, and many of you are doing as much as you can. I can only do so much. We elected y'all to do what you can. We're not asking you to do anything beyond that, but it's time to accept your responsibility as a city council. Do what you can, bring them forth, make them defend their position. Thank you.
Thanks, William.
Hello, my name is Jacob Araños. I am here on behalf of the Weber County Progressive Caucus. I'd like to share some of the findings we got from some of the residents we had during our People's Council. We were honored to have Council members Flor Lopez and Dave Graff in attendance, and they can verify to the depth of the productivity of the conversations we were able to have. Of the 28 attendees, we had 15 Ogden residents who appreciated having an extended window to voice their concerns with more time than is available in these open public sessions. From that, we have some actionable items we would request of the council. We request more Ogden outreach for homeless populations, possibly putting more funding towards community outreach programs such as Ogden's Homeless Medical Advocate through the fire department. We advise the council set up time with Jerem Gillens to see how easy it is to hack and tamper with flock cameras. Councilmember Graff and Lopez should have his contact information. We request that the council facilitate a meeting with the mayor and the sheriff for us to have a larger conversation on flock in the city and have questions answered as well as voice concerns to the people who are in charge of the program. We request that there is more visibility for the Citizens Council and the Sustainability Council, including on the website, with more visibility put towards the filling of these positions within that council. We request that the council provides easily and a clear list of these open positions on the front page of the city website so that these can be easier to be filled. We request that there is an audit of Utah's Fusion Center to see if any flock data from our city is being used within Utah as a wider area. We request that OGX, the free line, is continued to be funded for an extended period of time. And as for the ICE facility, we request a formal review and determination from the staff of that facility, a written analysis of the facility's operations, including holding times and conditions. We ask if any violations are to be found, that the council uses their powers to bring these conditions into compliance, and the conditional use permit is met. And we request that this other CUPs are evenly and fairly enforced.
Thank you.
Good evening, council, leadership, Mayor Nadolski, and staff. My name is Stephen Van Wagner, proud resident of Ogden City. There has to be a contrarian that's going to stand up and speak some wisdom and other counterpoints to the CREP. And that's me tonight. I want to thank you for your time and for the work you do on behalf of our community. I want to ask that you pause and look at the Utah Renewable Communities Program from a practical, real-world perspective, not just how it's being presented. This is not a simple $4 per month program. When you scale it, it represents approximately $1.7 million from Ogden City, potentially $30 million across Utah state ratepayers. More importantly, this is not a true opt-in choice. It is an opt-out structure. That means residents, students, businesses, and are automatically enrolled and must take action to avoid being charged. If they miss that window, they may have to pay an exit fee. That has real implications for Weber State students, renters, new residents, and small business owners who move into Ogden after the initial rollout. Many of them will never receive original notice. They will simply inherit the cost. As someone who has worked in the electrical field and understands how these systems operate, I can tell you that this is not just about clean energy. It is about how costs are structured, who controls them, and who ultimately pays. We all support reasonable stewardship of our environment. That is not the question. The question is whether this policy is fair, transparent, and properly protects the people you represent. I would also ask for full transparency. If any elected official has received monies and support from organizations advocating for this program, such as O2 Utah, Rural Utah Project, or their self-proclaimed brainchild, Stewardship Utah, that should be disclosed at this meeting so public can have confidence in your decision. Before moving forward, I urge you to ensure clear protections for future residents and renters and business owners. No penalties for those who did not have a fair chance to opt out, and full understanding of long-term cost exposure. Ogden deserves a complete and honest evaluation before committing to this scale. And I'd like to draw a comment to Texas. That was awesome that he brought that up. Texas has actually scaled the amount of renewables because the state of Texas and the government has not got involved. That was based off of private sector, public sector demand. It was not from government regulation. And if you do further research, you'll find that Texas is looking to regulate it the same way Utah is now. That's not good for renewable energy or power in the state of Utah. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Administration, for being here tonight. My name is Sarah. I'm a resident of Ogden. He's a resident, too. I'm here tonight to talk about the property at 2487 South, 1620 West, the ice holding room, and whether it's operating in compliance with the conditional use permit that the city granted in the year, 2001? A little while ago. I want to be clear, this is not about immigration policy. This is about whether Ogden applies its own land use laws consistently and fairly to every property, operator, use. The CUP for the facility was granted 25 years ago to the INS, an organization or a branch that's no longer operating, or, it's switched. The conditions of that permit were specific. Operations between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., no individuals held past 5 p.m., no overnight detention, maximum processing time of 10 hours in extreme cases. We've documented evidence that 25% of bookings in 2025 occurred outside permitted hours. That deserves a response, not silence. To you, Mayor, thank you for being here. My understanding is that your administration is responsible for inspecting and enforcing land use compliance. That's your executive function. We're asking you to exercise it. Direct your planning and building departments to conduct a formal compliance review of this facility. Fire safety, building code, hours of operation and use conditions, all of it. A friend, a community member, just had a fire inspection to start her business, and it's necessary for her to have a fire inspection every year. The same review you would conduct for any other property in this city is necessary at the CUP, and a real fire inspection. A drive-by would not be sufficient. This is not a political ask, it's a legal one and a matter of integrity. You said it well in reference to your administration back in February. You said, we are maintaining high standards of performance and accountability. This is accountability. You also said it's time for real world leadership. This is it. It's 2026 and we are demanding leadership or accountability from our elected leaders, and we appreciate you for that. To the City Council, I think I have time for one request to you guys. We're asking you to request a formal written determination of CUP compliance from the Mayor's administration with a defined and reasonable time frame for response. You have that oversight authority. We ask that you use it. This is not about stepping outside of your legal scope. This is accountability. The second ask, the facility has been operating under a 25-year-old permit with no renewal. We ask that you consider an ordinance requiring CUPs to be reviewed and renewed after 10 years. Once again, the same rules should apply to everyone. We're asking that they do. This is accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good evening. I'm hurting a little bit today. I'm Josh Creek, Ogden resident, Chair Heyer, Vice Chair Graff, and Vice Chair Graff, I hope you're doing okay. I want to begin by thanking you for meeting with us. I do appreciate the effort. I appreciate the willingness to sit down, to hear concerns directly, and to have conversations face to face. I also want to be honest, I was disappointed with the outcome of that meeting because the big takeaway for me was that this council feels helpless against the federal supremacy clause. That was the message I heard. Even if this body wanted to act, any reform would be merely symbolic because the federal government can have an unrestrained manner and local governments are expected to simply stand by and watch. But to criminals, all laws are symbolic. You pass them in the interest of justice. No law prevents its own violation. And I have to say, it's really hard to ignore that the council and the mayor share the same legal representation on issues like this. Those decisions are being made by the same person. Can anyone imagine a system where the body responsible for oversight and the executive it is supposed to check are relying on the same attorney? The legislative body must legislate, the executive must administrate, and the judiciary can't be robbed of its jurisprudence. Each body must provide a check on the other. Abdicating your authority to the mayor and in turn the Trump administration is a dereliction of duty and an affront to the oath you took. History and reality does not support the idea that local government is powerless. Time and again, localities have held federal government accountable, most often through litigation, and forcing issues into the light where courts and the public can act. That's how the system is designed to work, through accountability at every level. So I want to ask the follow-up questions tonight. Councilmember Lundell, what was the outcome of your attempt to reach the fire marshal during the regarding the ice hold room? Councilmember Washington, did you follow up with the county health department? Have you asked whether there's been any review of conditions at this building? Councilmember Myers, did you follow up with emergency calls to the building? Did you ask for records of medical calls, transports, welfare checks, or any other responses connected to that address? And now, Mr. Mayor, thanks for being here tonight. I'm grateful that you were serving the chief of police and that detective who were rewarded that. Ogden does have a great police department. That's why I think that they should be allowed to do their job and not have ICE come in here and tell them what to do. From where I stand, it appears the investigations into these allegations stop with you. And I have to say plainly, the only reason I can think of to stop that investigating is because you're afraid to find out that they're correct. That's not leadership. Recently, I heard that we have a culture war raging in America on the very concept of accountability. I think that's right. Tonight, the question in front of you, this council and the mayor is, which side of that line are you going to find yourselves on?
Thanks, Josh.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. The kingdom of heaven has come near to you. I'm James Dixon, a new resident of Ogden, Utah. I'm here to follow up from speaking last time, the last meeting. Lots of folks spoke about ICE. I thought that was interesting. I came to speak about deception. I think the two are intertwined. I wrote notes, but I might just speak without looking. I'm not sure. I think trying to figure out where to go from. I did go to the ICE facility in Ogden to check it out. It seemed like a lot of citizens were concerned of the safety of all that. I know there wasn't much that I could do, but Mr. Ryan at the front door was nice, and he seemed to speak from his heart. I'm hopeful that everyone that is goes in and out of that facility is treated fairly. I think we've all been fooled, city council folks and citizens, and it's not cool to be fooled. Its importance. I don't think I can speak about this to any national organizations because I think national organizations have been compromised. I think locally, I'm trying to gather people who can believe in my message and work with me to overcome deception. I think mercifulness is very important, but justice and transparency are also. The ability to vote is something I took advantage of. I would not vote again for the same president. I do not believe he should be president. I would be a better one. I would like to run for president of the United States of America. But it's just not acceptable for people to fake their passings and come back as someone else with a different name and a different look. This has been proven, this deception, on a YouTube channel. I encourage y'all to check it out. It's called The Fittest Flat Earther. Mr. Tyler has a gift. He's able to see the deception and call it out. And he is a supporter of Jesus Christ. It's interesting because the existence of this deception, once realized, helps to prove the existence of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit. So anybody who wants to team up with me, I'm James. I didn't know what email to email y'all at, the city council. I think that's all. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, James.
Hello, my name is Dan Bedford, proud resident of Ogden since 2002. Ogden is easily the coolest city in northern Utah by a long shot, but let's keep that to ourselves. We don't want that getting out. I want to speak very briefly in support of the Utah Renewable Communities Renewable Energy Program. As previous speakers have said, we're already opted in to Rocky Mountain Power. This is a great way to give people choice. It's a prescient move. It makes economic sense. And I'm told that the program is set up such that people who move into Ogden, new residents, will get their own notice and their own opt-out period, just like all of us who are here at the beginning. So it makes sense from every which way, from a reliability standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and from a stewardship of this wonderful part of the world in which we live. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thor Dorosh, Ogden resident.
I didn't finish my public comment last time. I'm just going to basically summarize it. I sent it to y'all, but I should re-go over it. The CUP that Ogden City made with the predecessor to ICE had set up with all of these facts in mind, all of how the organization operated at the time, that it operated with people not staying over with 10 hours, people not staying overnight, people being released pretty quickly on bail, and that they were not aggressively going after community members who did not commit crimes. All of these facts have changed. The organization that Ogden City signed that CUP with is not the same organization, is not doing the same work. And the work being done at that building is not what the building was originally suited for and what the CUP was given for. The quote, which I originally was reading, was discussing how, I was going to read it from the CUP agreement. Mr. Fitzrandall indicated that there are 2 cells inside the building, but no beds. And then Mr. Lance, representing what the predecessor I stated, that the Salt Lake facility is currently in operation, has no more than 5 people in the facility at one time, and is mostly empty, and they are only holding people for 1 to 2 hours. We have information of people being held for 2 to 3 days in a facility in which, according to the CUP agreement, has no beds. That's all I have.
Thanks, Thor. Let's see, we have a couple of hands online. Somebody from a Galaxy S9.
That's a far, far away.
Yeah, that's far, far away, Alex. Can you hear us? Looks like you're still muted. There you go.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Give us your name and city, please.
Okay, thanks. Evening, Council. My name is Tianu Tama, ordinary citizen of Ogden. I rise to speak against the adoption of the Community Renewable Energy Program. I've been following the progression of the CRE program since 2023 when I became aware of it. The issues today with the program are the same as they were 3 years ago, and that is it's forcing all Rocky Mountain customers residing in Ogden into the program without their consent. Good government. What precedent will the City Council be setting if they conclude that control is a justified means for a pending fear? I participated in the recent Public Services Commission hearing around the CRE program and was the only public commenter in opposition to the program because of what I see as a dangerous precedent. I was shocked that literally every comment besides mine was in favor of overlooking individual choice or individual rights to property and whether or not others wanted to participate in this program because of their fear of what's happening or could happen. I have no issues with renewable energy and in fact think it could do a lot of good, but I do have concerns with what I see as an overreach of government authority on individual rights and rights to property and the dangerous precedent it sets. Who's to say that the fear of anything happening in the future will be a justified means for more government control? In the Public Services Commission hearing, it was said that the Rocky Mountain will extend its cancellation period from 3 months to 6 months for customers to opt out without a penalty, which I still see as a problem, given how many of our Ogden residents don't even know about the CRE program, let alone that they will have up to 6 months to opt out. I reached out to Rocky Mountain Power last year and asked them how many customers they have in Ogden City. The representative couldn't say, but he did say the majority of residents who reside in Ogden are Rocky Mountain customers. Considering Ogden has over 87,000 people, that's a lot of customers who would be forced into participating without their consent. Has the council discussed how they are going to get the information out to the majority of Ogden residents about this program before it starts and about how they can opt out? How will the council and local government be educating Rocky Mountain Power customers in Ogden about this change beforehand? In 2019, HB 411 passed and is the reason we are here today. Some insights from the floor vote of the House of Representatives from 2019 that you may not know are that there were 24 nays, which included Representatives Albright, Chu, Shipp, Snyder, and before he became Speaker, Speaker Schultz, who all represent rural communities, all who voted against HB 411, as well as Representatives Val Peterson, Christopherson, then Representative Brammer, and then Representative Jefferson Moss from Utah County, who represent highly densely populated areas, also voting against it. I think taking into consideration their new votes is important because of the communities they represent, especially since the Public Services Commission hearing established that Summit County and Park City were the bill proposers. Again, I think renewable energy is a good thing, but I don't think we have to sacrifice individual choice or individual right to property to have it. I think we can have both without establishing what could be dangerous precedent moving forward. Preparation is a child of hope, not fear.
Your
Deliver
time
right
has
low.
expired.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have another one online, Linda.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name's Linda Zebeloff. I've lived in Ogden since 1984. And I'm speaking about the Community Clean Energy Program. I am totally in favor of it. I want to thank the council for your consideration of it and encourage you to adopt the program through the ordinance as was presented in the work session. This program does give us choice. It gives us the choice to opt for renewable clean energy, and it gives us the choice to, no matter our income level, to have this, even if we can't afford to put solar panels on our own homes. As someone stated before, I think it was Mark Stevenson, that by being a Rocky Mountain Power customer, we're automatically opted into their energy mix, which happens to be coal heavy. And so this way, we do have our choice, and that's what I'm grateful for. The presentation at the work session was amazing, and it's thoughtful, and this program is well thought out, as you saw. Several years ago, Weber State worked with the council at that time to create a survey to see how much people in Ogden would be willing to pay for this program. And what they came up with was $9 a month. So look at where we are now. $4 a month is less than half of what was even back then, what people would be willing to pay for their clean energy mix. So I urge you again to consider this program. I admire you for taking the time and asking all these thoughtful questions. And please give us our choice. Please pass the ordinance to keep Ogden in this program. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Linda. We have one more online, Heath Sato.
Hi, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. A couple people that I know and have a lot of respect for spoke against the energy program. I just want to make a quick note that I too want to have more choice, and I think this program will give us more choice. I think the discussion and debate is healthy, and the way it's been going in a respectable fashion, I appreciate and hope to see more of that. And regarding the ICE facility and CUP, I think history is going to look poorly at those that didn't do what they could. And I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Heath. We have a couple more in the chambers.
Good evening. My name is Chris Bassett. I'm from Ogden, and I'm here tonight to express my concern about the parking situation related to the townhome project on 16th Street near Harrison Boulevard that was proposed at last month's City Council meeting. I live in the Riverview Townhomes located on the southeast corner of Monroe and 16th Street. We have an entrance to and an exit from our community, both on 16th Street and Monroe. We're a community of 48 units, each with 2 parking spaces, 1 covered and 1 uncovered. We also have 7 guest parking spaces. Even with that, oftentimes guests park on 16th Street due to our guest and homeowner parking spaces being occupied. We even have a few 3-car families who need to park on 16th Street as well. And I do need to add that there is no parking allowed on Monroe, so we're restricted to parking on 16th Street. The proposed project includes, I believe, 42 units, each with 1 parking space. I believe it was also mentioned that there would be 12 to 20 guest parking spaces. If all 42 units are two-car families, and the HOA does, in fact, allow homeowners to park in guest spaces, which mine does not, that would still require 22 homeowner vehicles plus all guests to park on 16th Street. That is, if 20 guest parking spaces are provided. If only 12 guest parking spaces are provided, then it would require 30 homeowner vehicles plus all guests to park on 16th Street. If, as an example, there are a handful of units that are just one-car families, as is the case where I live, that would only decrease the number of vehicles needing to park on 16th by just a handful. Homeowners and guests from the proposed community would need to park their vehicles on 16th all the way from Harrison down to Monroe, directly affecting every single homeowner on that street. I live at the other end of 16th Street, so I don't have some of the other valid concerns that neighbors who live directly next to the proposed project have. But as far as parking is concerned, I would like to suggest decreasing the number of units that each, to ensure that each unit has 2 parking spaces plus an adequate number of guest parking spaces. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mrs. Bassett.
Hello, my name is Joanne Lawrence. I'm a resident of Ogden. I wasn't planning to speak today, but just in case you're taking a tally, here's one more person that is excited about this renewable energy program. After sitting through the work session today, it's even going to be better than I anticipated. I see that there are adequate opt-out program aspects to it. There's going to be adequate and super support for those who can't afford it. So I just hope that we will pass this and that it will become a reality. We need to have renewable energy. And we need to be leaders in Ogden. We can do that. Another thing I wanted to say is thank you to Council Members Graff and Lopez for coming to the People's Town Hall. That was the first time I've ever met with that progressive group before. And I want to just encourage you. I know you listened. You gave us ideas. I want to encourage you on the council to do what you can. Do whatever you can. Your constituents here in Ogden will continue to do what we can. And it's important that you not just abdicate what is happening to us, to the federal government. We can take some position here, at least take a position here. Do what you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. There are some more online. Now, oh, well, I guess we got one standing up. Come on up.
Laura Lewis, Ogden City resident. I stand before you very confused. It seems like we've spent the last 2 weeks talking about a zoning violation. I don't remember ever talking about a zoning violation in council before. Is this something new? Can you enlighten me? The other thing I'm confused about is the solar project. I was here, what was it, 2-3 months ago, we talked about this same thing. And I'm not seeing any more data to support what they're saying. Maybe you guys have this data, but I'm not seeing it as a resident. Where did they come up with that number for $4? I swore last time it was $9. Now we're down to $4. They haven't even built the facility. So how do we know what that cost is going to be? And when is the return on investment? It sounds like now these 19 communities are an island. They are the only ones involved in this solar project. So that means there's less funding to help support this. So somewhere those costs have got to come back to those 19 communities. And I didn't hear a lot of talk about that, how that was going to affect this project. But you the other thing is, where are these going to be located? Are they going to be in Ogden? Where are we going to build them? There's just so many unknowns on this project that I think it isn't fair to use city financing to support this project. We don't even know the consequences if you start this project and everybody opts out. Then what? What's the obligation to the city, to Utah Power, to continue funding this? So, and there's just so much that makes no sense. And I think the opt-out, I kept hearing, oh, you've got options. No, I don't. You are opting me in. And that feels like an overreach of your authority. What is the next thing that's going to come along? And you decide, I need to opt into that. I'm going to be forced to opt into that because you know what's best for me as a citizen. So think about the Constitution too, as well as you're making this decision. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, we have a couple online. Demetrios Pagonis. If I misspoke that, please forgive me.
Yeah, Demetrius Pagonis. Am I coming through?
We hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm an Ogden resident, and I also wanted to talk about the ICE facility here in town. And like others, I wanted to just sort of make the moral case in favor of starting to look at and question what's going on over there. Looking at the Trump administration's policies of mass deportation and the plans to build that warehouse facility in Salt Lake City, which would essentially be Topaz 2.0. A lot of us in town are very deeply concerned about the fact that ICE is allowed to operate here in our city, that we permit them to do that. And so recognizing that a lot of the next steps are sitting under the executive side of the city, Mr. Mayor, we're asking for you to let us know what you're doing on this. Please meet with us. Let us engage with you in forums outside of just city council so we can continue this work. And for city council, in addition to hearing all the answers to questions Josh asked earlier, I would also like to repeat that ask that, maybe we look at conditional use permits that are over 25 years old. Maybe we codify some kind of renewal process, right? Let's have more conversation about what kinds of things we want to allow in our city. And let's have that openly through whichever channels the city wants to do that in. Thank you.
Thank you. And Teresa's iPhone.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Teresa Bramwell. I am a resident of Salt Lake City. I'm also a very long-term property owner in Ogden City. And I know from my own personal experience, I have been a crime victim in the city of Ogden over 100 times more than I have ever been in the city of Salt Lake. So to me, the very largest issue, the biggest problem, the thing that requires the most attention from government officials in the city of Ogden is crime. I know a couple of years ago, we had it on the ballot in Weber County to build 16 beds for homeless people in the Weber County Jail. That was going to cost $98 million to the citizens of Weber County to basically incarcerate homeless people. And I don't believe homeless people are residents of Ogden City or Weber County. If they're homeless, then they are homeless and not a resident of Ogden City or Weber County. So that was not passed by the voters. I believe that having an ICE facility in Ogden is imperative. In fact, I think we need a bigger one. And maybe after 25 years of being in this small building, the building is just insufficient. And if Ogden city officials are going to have communication with the federal government, maybe we need to suggest that they build a bigger, newer building and spend federal dollars in Ogden City to start making a dent on some of the crime going on there. And while they're at it, perhaps they could throw some of that attention at the homeless people who are not technically residents of Ogden or Weber County because they're homeless and they're committing crimes. And Weber County residents already said they don't want to pay to build 16 beds for $100 million onto the Weber County Jail. So I believe, like some other people, that perhaps this facility in West Ogden is insufficient for the amount of crime and federal focus that needs to be happening in the city of Ogden. The federal government has a lot more money than the city of Ogden, than the residents of Ogden, than the taxpayers of Ogden. The federal government has a lot more money than the residents and taxpayers of Weber County, and perhaps the federal government should take its responsibility for the things that it has obviously allowed to slip under the radar and allowed to, the residents of Ogden City to be crime victims. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Next is Linda online. Linda, you've still got yourself muted. Is it us or is it her, Brandon? It's her. Linda, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
I already spoke. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Next one is Angel Castillo.
Evening. My name is Angel Castillo. I am an Ogden resident and former planning commissioner, and I'd really just like to advocate heavily for that playoff music that happened for the first comment. That was amazing. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd like to acknowledge the memo and explainer that I sent you in email, talking about like everyone is talking about the CUP for the ICE holding room at 2487 South, 1620 West. We're all talking about it because people are paying attention, and in response, I'm using my background in land use and city code to just publicly address for our community that may not have access to the memo or may not be paying attention exactly right now, specifically what you as the legislative body can do, and just importantly, what you can't do. And I want to be really clear about that. My comments aren't about immigration policy, and they're not about interfering with federal operations. Pretty much everybody in that room, I believe, understands that cities cannot stop federal government. And, you know, we're seeing that play out at a larger scale, like places in Minnesota where there's a big increase in federal immigration activity, a strong public response. The governor isn't happy, but local governments can't stop federal operations, no matter how the municipality feels. But there's a local responsibility for Ogden as it pertains to our land use code. And in fairness to all businesses operating in Ogden now and in the future, it should be addressed. You know, we've all talked about, does this usage still apply to what's happening? And based on the June 24th, 2025 U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE memo, there's a nationwide directive saying they can hold people for 72 hours. That is a significant shift in duration and operational intention. So, you know, the question is the current operation consistent with what was originally approved? And Utah law says that you have the authority to review how laws are applied and request a formal determination from the staff. You're not being asked to direct enforcement. You're not being asked to manage the staff. You are asked to ensure that the city follows its own process and explains its decision. So my request is simple. Please request a formal written determination of CUP compliance for the ICE holding room And please do so within a defined and reasonable time frame, because if you don't make a determination, then effectively that's a decision to allow the current use to continue without review. And that's a broader concern about whether city is approving, whether or not you're applying everything consistency. So if the use is changed, it should go through the same review process as any other conditional use, including a consideration of whether or not it should return to the planning commission. So consistency, transparency, accountability, the same rules should apply to everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Linda, she's been standing, so.
My name is Alexa Hubert, and I'm an Ogden City resident. I wasn't going to get up and talk, but I just have to say a couple things. Shocking though it may be, the unhoused are in fact living, breathing human beings. While they may not have a permanent residence, they do still live in this city and this county. As do the undocumented people in our community. Regarding our ICE holding room that is here in our community, you've been given a lot of ideas of things to look into, and what I ask is that you do everything that you can to make sure that anyone who is being processed through that facility is being treated in a humane manner. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alexa. Okay, Linda, you're up.
Linda Sanchez. I wanted to speak out today because I was a little concerned about what feels like a growing division between our local council and administration and leadership. I've heard a lot of efforts about removing different members of leadership and different positions, and increasing public conflict. And this worries me as a resident. I understand that elected officials have the right to their own views and to express them. However, I do believe that there is a responsibility to lead in a way that it brings people together, not farther apart. When acting, whether in meetings or in public space, please I feel like it's becoming more focused on conflict than collaboration. And it makes the residents feel less represented and less confident in the direction of the city. Ogden has so much potential, and I would much rather see the energy go toward improving our community by strengthening our neighborhoods and working together on solutions. I understand we have problems, but we can work together on solutions without tearing each other apart. As far as the ICE, I remember when the county, I was looking at the county commission meetings. Nobody is talking at the county commission meetings. You would think that that would be a place that, if that's a concern, they have a little more grasp there because the sheriffs are involved. Also, I just want to remember that in Ogden City, we went through hard times. I just want to bring this to the work session meeting so that remember when we had hard times, there are bigger fish to fry.
That's a chicken.
And that's a chicken. But remember, there was a big and this is specifically made so it does not look like it's all the same, because we're not. But together, we can be something magical. Also, I brought you pens and other pens. The 13 colonies, they actually almost hated each other when they very first started. Just a reminder. They acted away from each other, and they came together. I just suggest that we do the same.
Thanks, Linda. Okay.
There will be more back there if you guys want. Oh,
I think we've run out of people now. So, council members, anyone like to address any of the questions that were raised or answer any of the questions, preferably? So,
I can start.
Sure.
Chris Bassett spoke about parking concerns on 16th Street. That project, I think you mentioned that there was one space per unit. I do believe there's two, and the guest parking, and that is a requirement of the build there. Someone else can correct me if I'm wrong on that. And Steve Van Wagner, thanks for coming tonight. Steve and I have spent a lot of time discussing many city issues. We agree on most. We don't happen to on this one, but I'm happy to transparently express that I have received a endorsement from Stewardship Utah and also a donation from that organization. And when I was running, I only accept endorsements and donations from organizations that I felt like I shared values with. And I feel like I share values with Stewardship Utah. So I'm actually quite proud of that. Joshua Creek, thank you again for speaking and for asking for follow-ups. On my part, I did ask for a fire inspection to take place at the holding facility, and the email response back that we got was that they drove by the facility and didn't see a reason to do one. I did follow up with a question about when was the last time one was done and have not received a response about that. That's all I have for now, I think.
Okay. There will be other time for council member comments, so anyone else?
Yeah, thanks for the prompt. I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Filling this room with your voice is really important to us. We really applaud community engagement, regardless of what perspective you bring. We learn from it all. So thanks for that. Mr. Van Wagner, with regard to who endorsed me, I was endorsed and did receive a campaign donation from Clean Air Utah in 2023 while I was campaigning, and they supported my door knocking efforts as well. I too, like Mr. Lundell, chose to engage with them because I spoke in this chamber in support of the Utah Community Renewable Communities effort early on. So it was part of my DNA, so to speak, as a candidate for council, and to be supported by a like-minded organization felt like it was right. Mr. Baumann, thanks a lot for talking about water. And thanks for your service on those boards. Those don't go with a lot of recognition, but we are going to be in a hurting way this summer, and I really applaud the efforts on the Water Conservation Board's and organizations' part to really put it out early. I'm a Pine View water user, secondary water. I'm a neighbor, by the way, not too far away. And I was overjoyed to hear that they're turning water on late, and they're asking us not to water until the middle of May. Our lawns don't need it. They justified why. And I think we all need to kind of lean into this as a community to be sure that we find ourselves with ample drinking water and waters to support our industry and our Great Salt Lake and our rivers. So thanks for that. The conditional use permit thing, I think this has been a very constructive bit of conversation around the ability of everybody in the conversation to understand what City Council can do and what it can't do. What we don't do is issue conditional use permits, nor do we administer them, nor do we enforce them. That is out of our realm of influence, and I think at the community conversation on Saturday, a little light bulb went on for me in conversation with some others in the room. We have a very different form of government in Ogden City than our surrounding communities do, where if you go to the surrounding communities, the City Council has administrative responsibilities along with legislative responsibilities, and because of our form of government, we do not. And you can go to the Utah League of Cities and Towns website, and you can watch a tutorial on the various forms of city and municipal government that are granted by the state of Utah. And I think those of you that are a little wondering why we don't get into conditional use administration, we'll find some answers in that. We can ask the administration for action, and I do believe we've done that. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Symes, we have made some requests of the administration with regard to this use, and we're awaiting some answers on that.
Yeah, just to confirm, any questions that have come from council, we have forwarded on to the administration.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you.
Chair? Oh.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, just real quick. Again, thank you for everyone for coming tonight. Laura, yeah, there's a lot of questions. We are having a second work session on the community, I don't know what to call it, CREA, the CREP. Someone talked about pancakes, and so.
Community renewable.
The community, yeah, anyway. I appreciate the feedback and the many emails we received as well on the topic. I think there's a lot of passion about that. And I think there are also some valid concerns and questions as far as the rollout, and we're still in the process of gathering all that information. So appreciate Lorenzo. He's been awesome at providing that information, and he's always been responsive on any questions I've had. And I look forward to learning more. But Laura, you've asked some good questions. I think we can include those in our follow-up as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Jesse, on the Weber County Sheriff, Ogden does not contract with the Sheriff's Department, I don't believe. I think we, like other communities would. Other communities don't have their own police departments, and so that contract that you're referring to, I don't know that we necessarily have that to that same level, but maybe the mayor can shed some light on that as well. And I think that's what I got.
Councilor Washington.
Thank you. I am curious, Chair and Vice Chair, if we could have those, or the email or the questions that we sent to administration read during this meeting, or if Glenn could read them.
It might take me a little bit to get those collected. They've been coming in over the last couple of months, so I'm not sure I'd be prepared to recite all those questions right at this point. But
okay,
I can try to get those together, and I don't know if I could do it right during this meeting, but I can put that list together.
Thank you. So it's just a running account of the emails that council we've been sending to each other and forwarding to staff, correct? Okay, so have we formally sent those questions in, or are we still compiling them?
Typically, I send them on as they come in.
Thank you.
So like I said, over the last couple of months, we've had lots of questions come in from council members about the conditional use permit, about our authority, about lots of various things. And so those I typically keep in a separate folder, so I can go through that and try to compile the ones that we've sent on.
Thank you. And I also want to say to the chair and vice chair and to council staff, thank you for the clarification and the history of when a special meeting is called. And so in a council staff memo that was sent to us, just so it's stated, it's in our council rules and norms that a special meeting may be called at any time by the chair or written by a call of special meeting by any 4 council members submitted to the executive director and filed with the city recorder, which states at the time the purpose of the meeting. A special meeting with the council may also be called at any time upon the request of the mayor. Public notice is provided at the time and the purpose of each special meeting. And so I just want to reflect on that, because from the dais a couple weeks ago, I did request an additional meeting. And so there was more research done by our leadership and also by our council staff to clarify exactly what a special meeting is. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Still speaking into the conditional use permit, you know, I've been, I can only speak for myself, but I would not be surprised to hear that my fellow council members, upon the reflections, have been diving into the conditional use permit. It's public information, and I do just have more follow-up questions, just knowing that codes change and what's listed in the conditional use permit that I will be researching, like the development code listed in the first paragraph of the background of 15-21-2, if that has shifted and if that shifts the conditional use permit. Language being used in the conditional use permit in the background says, while this is not a correctional facility, and I say that particularly because I did, specifically because I did reach out to the Weber Morgan Health Department to ask if any type of inspection has happened. And so I called to follow up again before our work session, and a field inspector had gone out to the facility, to the ice holding facility. And he gave me a brief update, but he did let me know that he attempted to enter the facility, but instead had a discussion with someone who was working at the facility as to some questions that inspector posed to that individual. So I do not want to take my words and put them onto what the report will be. And so that individual is writing up their report, but to Josh, who posed the question to me, Mr. Creek, who posed the question to me, I did reach out to Weber County Health Department, and as of today, around 3:15, they had just come back from their field inspection of attempting to get into the ice holding facility. And then I want to, the reason why I bring that up as well is because I know there was, from my recollection, there was some questions asked to me as if the ice holding facility was being used, the intention was for any type of institutional use. Which goes back to the language being used in the conditional use permit, which is, while this is not a correctional facility. So just making sure that it is identified clearly what the facility is being used for, because if it is being used for something that is institutional, it would demand different type of satisfactory environmental conditions being met. There's other language in here within this conditional use permit that all conditional uses require a site plan be submitted, and that is attached to the conditional use permit, albeit it's circled where the ice holding facility is in operation. It doesn't list any type of specs. It doesn't list any type of sprinkler system that may be in there. And again, in the conditional use permit, it says for fire use safety, this portion of the building will be sprinklered to the satisfaction of the fire marshal. And Councilmember Lundell, please correct me if a fire marshal has done inspection within that building from your correspondence with the fire marshal.
I didn't actually correspond directly with the fire marshal, just with administration, and we got an email back from Mara that said that they haven't recently upon our request, and I haven't heard whether they have in the past or not.
Okay, so that is something that is in the conditional use permit that I haven't seen any additional documentation to see if that portion of the building, has been sprinklered to the satisfaction of the fire marshal. So I await that response. And to respond directly to Mr. Van Wagner, I have not received any type of campaign contributions or contributions from Stewardship Utah or from O2. And so my interest and my research and my support of CREP, or the Utah Renewable Energy Program, is from my own research, my own interest in how we continue to protect and be stewards of our land, and the opportunities to ensure these renewable energy sources that are immediate and set up a long-time success for our future residents. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. By way of report, I would just also like to express that I'm very excited about the, I may just quote this correctly, Community Clean Energy Program. I look forward to looking into that more and studying it more, but I think it's the wave of the future. I think there's a lot of really good stuff going on there, and so I'm a supporter of that cautiously, because I think there's more to learn. And I'm just grateful that we have such good leadership and stewards that are looking into that for us. And so that's a good quality, and I'm grateful that we're looking into that as a city. I think that's an excellent program for our citizens. And so as representative of those citizens, I am cautiously optimistic that this will be great for our community. I wait to hear more and learn more. There'll be another presentation of that in our upcoming work sessions. I would also like to comment about the ice holding facility And I just want to, unbeknownst to many of you here today, our council staff has done incredible research of what other communities are doing to address that exact same issue, including Salt Lake City and Portland and other communities and even in Oklahoma. And I can't state exactly all the findings that they had. They're immense. There's many, many pages and studies. But while you may be critical of what our council is doing, we are taking a very proactive approach to see exactly what the possibilities are. And this isn't the last you'll hear of that. So just be patient. It doesn't look like there's a lot of action to many people in the community, but I think there's a lot of groundwork and legwork that's being done that will end up being very, very productive. And at least for sure, legislatively, we'll know. It appears that a lot of the legislative power does not fall within the council, but in other areas of the city government. So I also want to report to Mr. Van Wagner, just say thanks for bringing up your thing. I was not endorsed by any organization. I was endorsed by a strong group of friends who supported me in my political aspirations, many of whom wondered why I was wanting to venture down this highway of serving on the city council. And I will just report to you that I just love community service. I look forward to serving our city. I'm committed to it, and I'm all in. And so I don't have any other thing to report about who supported me or endorsed me or not, other than just a strong group of friends. Does that work? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your being here tonight. It's awesome to be with our community. We enjoy hearing your feedback and your concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
First of all, thank you so much for Saturday meeting. That was amazing. I really appreciate it. Councilmember Graff and we really appreciate it. I sent an email with all the resources we have. I don't know if you see it, about homeless and everything in Weber County and Ogden City. Also, I want to invite everyone to be part of the board commissions. It's a list in Ogden City. It's a website as well that you can be part of different boards, like Ogden City Arts Advising Committee, Christmas Village Committee, Community Engagement and Opportunities Commission. And the community one, I believe, is empty. There's no one there. So hopefully you guys can join, because if you are worried for our city, that is a good start. I remember when I started getting involved with the community and with the city, I start with those committees, and I love it. Mostly Christmas Village, though. But yeah, I love Christmas. And again, regarding with the ICE facility, we're still in conversation. Just be patient. The Egyptians never built a pyramid in one day, so just be patient. Thank you so much, and thank you for being engaged.
Okay, thank you. There's a few things that I did want to discuss and report on. I represent our council at the Weber Area County of Governments that met this night. And Weber Basin did come and give a presentation there, and I think that was already mentioned what they had said, but they're not going to turn the water on, the secondary water on, until they'll load the system, but no watering until May 15th is what they said. They will be shutting the system down on September 15th, with the exceptions of some agricultural, which they did some negotiations with those folks. They would like the water earlier, but they also are happy to have it shut off earlier so that their season isn't any longer, it's just earlier. And they have asked that agricultural irrigation reduce its usage by 20%, secondary water usage by 20%, M&I, culinary water, outdoor irrigation. So at your house, they'd like you to reduce your lawn watering and that landscape watering by 20%, but they haven't asked for any indoor culinary use or reduction, primarily because that flows through your house and ends up in the Great Salt Lake anyway. So that's what the Weber Basin has asked to this point. Weber Basin they said some startling things. They said that usually we have runoff that goes for another month. they said it's over. Now we've got the runoff that we're going to have. It's done. And so they may get some of the reservoir still filling a little, but we've kind of got what we're going to have. So I think that's an important thing for us as residents, as we need to make sure that we're good stewards of those resources. One thing that kind of rang true with me years ago is that we are in the second driest state in the nation, but we still seem to water like we're back east and getting rain every day. We need to think differently about, and I don't think we need to have cow skulls and saguaro cactuses on our front lawn, but we do need to think differently about that. So I want to make a mention that I did receive the email from the group that hosted the meeting on Saturday at the library with your requests and suggestions. I did want to talk about the conditional use permit. From the time that when we did issue the conditional use permit back in 2000 and today, state law has changed on how those things get approved and how they function. And maybe I'm not the best one to be to tell exactly all the changes. I'm gonna look at our legal over there and our planners who are very in tune with how that works. Used to be we would approve a conditional use permit and impose conditions. State law required us, we don't get to impose those conditions anymore. All we can do is mitigate concerns. Is that a fair assessment? So if they want to do something and we think it needs to be mitigated, we can put some mitigating measures down for that. Do you want to chime in a little bit, Glenn? And
just briefly,
fill in the gaps?
You're right. As far as conditional use permits go, before about 2005 or 2006, they really were sort of what we think of as a case-by-case basis, where we could have conditions that were a little bit more specific. The changes to LUDMA, which is the Utah State Code, around 2005 or 2006, they did change, and there's some really specific language in the state code that requires reasonable conditions to mitigate reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. So if you can get through all of that. And what that essentially did was turn those into permitted uses with conditions rather than conditional use permits, the way we used to think of them as a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. And so I just want to point out that they're not like they used to be. And so I think maybe Gary, I don't know if you can explain how enforcement has changed in that same process.
Well, the enforcement thing has plenty of different aspects to it. So I don't know that I can answer all your questions in one response. But a conditional use permit, once granted, can't be yanked back. As long as they're compliant with it, it is what it is. But if they were to obtain a new conditional use permit, then it can't be denied if they can mitigate whatever the problems with traffic or something around the area is. So if there's a problem that comes up and they say it can be mitigated, or if the planning commission says it can be mitigated, it's automatically granted. And in fact, even if you had 50 people in the room that said we really shouldn't grant this, they couldn't use that as a basis for not granting the conditional use permit. And so it's really a different animal. But I think the real point here is that the enforcement, I'll just tell you that we've looked at the compliance in this particular case. It doesn't appear there's any non-compliance at all. And if there isn't, then there's no reason to go any further. If there is, then there's reason to say, well, come into compliance. It's not like you're out of here. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to talk about the conditional use permit aspect. Now, the renewable energy, I pushed back on this since it was originally addressed as HB 411. That's what we called it for a long time, because of actually two things that have been, they're foundational problems in my mind. And one is the opt-out. This council, this will be the first opt-out long as it gets approved, that we have ever approved, because opt-outs are so disagreeable to it. It is intended to get people in that wouldn't do it on their own, and so that's one problem I have. I've got to say, in defense of this group and all of the discussion that's happened, they have addressed some of the issues, many of the issues that surround the opt-out problem that I have. The other issue that I have is this a role for government at all? And I'm a small government guy. I think government ought to stay out of people's way as much as possible. And so that's the other issue. It's kind of indirectly related to this, but it doesn't come along with this. I am open-minded. I appreciated Lorenzo and Glade's presentation today. It was very informative and answered a lot of questions. The other thing that I really do find a little bit of a problem with this thing is it does seem a little deceiving that we think we're going to get, that everybody's going to have 100% of this renewable energy, when in fact it's still going to have to be supplemented by some other source that is reliable when those sources can't put it out. So I think it isn't an outright lie because they use the word net, but it does send a message that I think is misinterpreted too often. As far as Ogden's transparency, we've been somewhat criticized for not being as transparent as we can. And I tell you what, I've looked around our area, our state. I think Ogden is absolutely the most transparent city that I know of. With all the things that we do with streaming meetings, having them be able to be seen later, the minutes are online and available instantly. We have, all of us have our emails on the website, our phone numbers. All of those things we're really available. I don't know of anybody else in another jurisdiction that is more transparent than Ogden City is. You could disagree. That's my belief. The idea, though, that we have some magical power to do something with the federal government, I think is folly. If I can kind of just use some example of, we've been talking about the Constitution a little bit, and there should be copies for anybody that needs one on that back table. The Constitution was set up to be a disaggregation of power. There are 3 branches of government at the federal level. There's 3 branches of government at the state level. And in Ogden, there's also 3 branches of government, all designed to provide accountability and to perform certain functions. The ICE is a federally organized organization founded by Congress, so the federal government. They do what they do under the powers of that federal government. The accountability is also provided at the federal government. So the people that actually can do something about that, in our case, is Mike Lee, John Curtis, and Blake Moore. Those are the people. I can't tell you how to get a hold of them. They do have offices that you may be able to get a hold of. I've been able to get a hold of the office, and you can express your concerns. But that accountability is only at the level that you are at. So a local government can't provide accountability for a federal level agency. It's just not possible. We can provide some accountability for uses that we do authorize, as has been mentioned, but that's minor. I mean, if we were to tell ICE, which I think would be disingenuous if we're not going to be as critical about all of the other conditional use permits that have been granted in this city. And nobody's suggesting that we do that. I think it's a little disingenuous to try to say, well, we're going to just pick on you guys. That I think is in disharmony with what government should do. So that's just to throw that out. I mean, we had the No Kings protest here 2 Saturdays ago. That was about this disaggregation of government, not a concentration of power, and that's what we have in our constitutional republic, and that's an important thing that I think we need to recognize and honor. So anyway, that's my 2 bits. Mayor, comments?
Thank you. Sorry I wasn't here last meeting. It's good to see everybody. I do feel good about where I was. It was a good place to be. I come to these meetings as often as I can. I'm almost always here, but there are conflicts at times. And just so everybody's aware, this is not a mayor's meeting. This is a city council meeting. I'm not obligated or required to be here at all. I come here for respect to the council, respect to the community and the people that we serve. So I'll keep showing up when I can. There will continue to be conflicts, though, that arise, and I won't be here, but I will make sure that our administration's well represented with CAO Mayor Brown leading the charge when I'm not here. But I also want to state that I spend countless hours and meeting with people outside of these chambers. In fact, that's where the most fruitful engagement and discussion happens, is when we can just sit and talk. This is a really hard forum to actually have a conversation and communicate, because I think you guys are probably as frustrated with the 3 minutes as I am, to be honest. It's like you say something and then I just respond, but then I probably create more questions than answers when I respond. And so it's just not a good, congenial, human way for us to be able to actually understand. And so I put a lot of effort and energy and hours into understanding. And I think what comes with that is other people help also come away with an understanding of where I'm coming from too. And I find them really fruitful, honestly. So if anybody wants to meet with me, I'll do my best to meet with you. I do it constantly. I'll start, there's a whole list. If I forget or miss something, my apologies. I'll try and be thorough. As it relates to the ICE directive, I can't remember exactly the emails, this, that, or the other, so I won't get overly specific because there's so many emails. I don't want to misspeak. But when I was asked about performing a fire inspection, I wanted to share with you guys the directive that I gave to staff, because I think it might help clarify what we've done, what we haven't done, and why we've done what we've done, and why we haven't done what we haven't done. And it all starts with, I want you guys to know that I don't agree with everything that I'm seeing either, and that I know people that are personally impacted by immigration issues right now, that I have family through marriage that are going through various levels of proceedings and deportation order or immigration issues. And these issues touch closely to my family through marriage. And these are people that I love and care deeply for. I also have friends who are the closest people in my life who have family who are working through issues like this. So this is not something that is abstract to me. It is not me personally, I get that, but it's something that impacts people that I love deeply. And so these aren't things that I take lightly. In fact, anybody that knows me well knows how much I love the Mexican community and the immigrant community as a whole, because it's more than just immigrants from Mexico. That's the primary component of what we have here. But the values, I agree with the things that people say, that there are good people in our communities that don't have legal status, and it's true. And I know many of them, and they matter a lot to me and to my family, including friends of my own children and friends of mine and my wife. So I'm not going to be dismissive or just disregard these things or these requests of us, because I recognize that they matter. And I was glad you came back. I know you got a little, so you're probably in a little bit of a hurry, but you talked about accountability, you talked about fairness, you want answers and information. And that was really exactly where I was coming from when I gave directive to my staff. The request was to conduct a fire inspection. And I said, no problem. Fire Marshal, how do we conduct fire inspections on existing businesses? And what triggers the depth of that inspection? Well, there's an allegation of a fire code violation and something specific that would lead to danger. That's something that we would go and look into. When we got the information, it was something about the insulation and the outside windows, et cetera. So it was an outside thing that was specifically cited as a violation within the code, of which we went and looked into and did not validate the accusation or the allegation that was alleged. But I told my staff that we're going to treat this case the same way we would treat anybody else. Because I think that if we were doing this to anybody in our city, any private business, we would be hearing about it from you guys because you'd be really upset with us for targeting. And so I asked my staff and directed them, we're going to do this the way we do it always. And deeper inspections happen when there's something very specific and valid that's causing a concern, of which we didn't find, so we didn't go deeper. Or when business licenses are issued or new construction permits. That's typically when these inspections occur. We don't have any data for any inspections between since that time for this. And we also don't have any specific violations of the fire code that we can act on to go further. I'm not against doing a fire inspection at all. In fact, I'd be willing to ask if they just let us, and they might. But just know that if we were to find something that violates the code, I would direct my staff to handle it the same way we would with anybody else. And we would let them know what the violation is or the shortcoming within their facility is, give them direct to fix it, and then we would follow up, and after they fix it, we would move on. That's how it works all the time, every day in the city. So if there's something that we can do and go further, no problem, we will. If we find something, we'll let them know what the violation would be, and we'll follow up and to any fixes that might need to occur, and we'll go about our business. That does not change who was elected, does not change federal directives or orders. It's just us doing business the way we do business, fairly, consistently, transparently, with accountability to the law and to the precedent and to the way that we treat everybody, because I agree with everybody that spoke today that we should all treat each other the same, that no one should be above the law or an exception to the law. So that's where we're at on that. Can we go further? Yes. Would we normally? No. Might they let us? Maybe. We'll ask and we'll find out. So there's no opposition to me for me to do that. I think Chief Administrative Officer Brown mentioned last week that as far as the data and the accusation that they're violating the conditional use permit, we have not been able to substantiate that claim with data or evidence. Again, I say the word evidence because we're working on a standard of proof that's important, especially when we're dealing with the law. So we have not been able to validate or substantiate that evidence. If anybody has anything else, I'm willing to look at it, but we have looked into it and haven't been able to. So we don't see any legal grounds to pursue or to continue. I am aware of the nationwide directive that's been given and have already inquired as to what our options are there. And the nationwide directive that changes the number of days would probably be superseded by the Supremacy Clause, yes. But also with the information that we've been able to find, there has been no violation of, no provable violation of having overnight incarceration or holding in the facility. So regardless of the change in the nationwide directive, we haven't seen any violation of the existing directives prior to that anyway. We have also met with the sheriff. So we've met directly with ICE locally, and we've met with the sheriff to validate that what we're hearing on one side is validated on the other side, and the two are equal and true in separate discussions. So that is another sign of a little bit of validation. There's also opportunity for all of you guys to meet with the sheriff. I think he's made that offer. Some of
Yes.
you have taken it.
Yep.
I hope you find it fruitful. We have. He's been very open and transparent. And if you have not met with him, I think that offer probably still stands, but you'd have to check with him. It's been very insightful for us. Sorry, I'm just going through my list, make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, I did want to address the quote. I think I don't see her. She must have left. Oh, there you are. Thanks. The quote was, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing." And I get it. You're right. I think it is important that we do everything we can to make sure that everybody is being treated fairly and humanely in this community. We do that for people that we engage with and encounter at OPD, and we expect the same of every department that does enforcement within our city. We absolutely hold that standard and that expectation to those agencies. And if I saw a violation, or if we see that kind of a violation from any of the agencies, we will go further. Again, I need it to be based on fact and evidence, and we'll work toward any allegations to see if there's any substantiation of that. And if we find that there is, then we'll continue to pursue whatever options we have. We have not seen that so far, but it doesn't mean we have done nothing. I also think it's important that we're not going to triumph evil by breaking the law. I've been asked, I wasn't asked tonight, I'm not alleging that. I've been asked quite a bit for me to step outside my lane of authority and outside of the bounds of the law in order to enforce things that people see and they don't like. And I'm not going to minimize what people are seeing and don't like. What I'm going to say is I'm not going to break the law in order to achieve what you want me to achieve politically, or as far as what you see and what you don't like. I see a lot of things I don't like, and I can't do anything about all of them. I can't do something about all of those things, but when I can and when the law allows me, I do. And sometimes there is just a moral imperative that we do things, and we do. But I just want you to know that I am going to work within, and I do hold myself accountable to the law. So that's really important to me, and I'm not going to change that. If I don't want that to mean that I'm being dismissive. I just want that to mean I'm going to be accountable to the right things to do according to the law and to the Constitution. Councilmember Ritchie, you brought up the response to Mr. Belknap's West Haven, Weber County police issues. That was discussed last night in the Weber Area Council of Governments. Weber County operates the jail facility for us, so the custodial duty, they oversee that for the entire county. That's the primary role and responsibility for Weber County Sheriff for us. There are other cities that don't have their own police department within the county, and they contract with Weber County to provide police service. The cost of those services continues to rise, and there is a lot of discussion in those contract cities on what it's going to cost to provide police coverage for those communities. There are also, I think it was 32 officers or deputies in this case that are provided by the Sheriff's Department through the general fund. That's tax dollars from county residents, regardless of whether you're in a contract city or not. Those are the positions that impact Ogden City the most. And what we learned last night is that shortcomings or shortfalls within the contract city coverage are being covered by the general fund from all taxpayers, including us. So you have, as residents, are, at least according to the county commission last night, are being double taxed to provide services for police in this community, and that's not right. So that is an issue that I take issue with, and I am digging into, because we have our own police department and we should not be double taxed and then letting other communities off the hook so that their bills are less because we're willing to subsidize it. That's just not right. So that is something that I'm addressing, and I'm going to address it pretty aggressively. I think the number, there's 30 members of SWAT, and I think we're 28 of the 30. That's a county-wide resource, and we even go outside the county because they're that good. When called upon, they show up. That's Ogden City providing that. That's also unfair and uneven. So those are issues that I'm working through to find out more. Let's see. The Community Renewable Energy Act. I'll say, Steve Van Wagner, if you're still here, I did not receive donations from any of those organizations. I did, however, receive constant critique and attack and hate mail, mailers that were designed to discredit me from that group and those groups. What I did learn at that time, which was really disturbing to me, and it would be disturbing to anybody I think that hears it, and that it's not a secret, is that those organizations are, I don't know how they're funded. They fall into a category of organizations that hide from accountability of where the funding comes from. There was a time where campaign finance was very transparent. And there was also a time, and it's even written about, it's discussed if you look into it, it's not even a secret, it's crazy, that these organizations went underground to take away that transparency. And they created series of 501c3s, C4s, 527s, and PACs that look like nonpartisan groups. And they advocate for specific issues and attack other people and support others. And they do so under the guise of apolitical policy work. These are very political, very partisan, and unaccountable organizations. And I learned that in the campaign through all the attacks that I endured, in spite of my 23 years of experience in natural resource management and conservation, of which environmental issues are very important to me, always have been. That's why I committed 23 years of my life plus all of my education to it. So no, I haven't received any donations. I'll defer to the answers given on the 16th Street parking issue. That's the first I'd heard since I wasn't here last time. My apologies. And I'll finish with water. We'll be pushing out more communication from our side, not only about water restriction and water use to anticipate as the season unfolds, but also around fire restrictions that you can expect. Those are kind of going to go hand in hand. Again, there will be limits on what we can enforce because of state law, et cetera, right? But we'll do what we can to make sure that we're being mindful of water use throughout the city and landscape watering and et cetera, but also different fire risk. And we're going to be basing it on condition, basing it on facts. We have really well-developed plans and policies around these, and we'll have triggers within those that will trip, and we'll make sure that we communicate those as they come. But we're going to make sure, and this was a request of the council leadership on behalf of the entire council, that we start to communicate that so that people know what to expect. So be on the lookout for that. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council member comments.
Mayor, can you speak into how you looked at the data that we've heard from the community about, and how you drew different conclusions than did our local PhD data analyst who has spoken to us, and also KUER as they reported on that?
The data on overnight, et cetera?
Yeah, overnight stays outside of, or use outside of the times that was reported on by KUER and our local community.
So we had multiple people look at it. They weren't able to arrive at the same conclusion, but we also didn't have what the methodology was for how that conclusion was arrived at. I wasn't the one that did the analysis, so I can't speak to it personally, but we saw the information and the allegation. I don't know what other word to use. The allegation of it, and tried to substantiate it. We haven't been able to. So that's all I can tell you.
Okay, I'd encourage you to look and speak to the community members who have expertise in that area in searching the data. It's data that has been dropped specifically by the Trump administration, has been curated by UC Berkeley law professor, and then curated locally here by PhD data analyst, and then verified by KUER. So I'd like to hear more about how those conclusions differ. I think that's a good question. Gary, I just had some questions regarding the conditional use permit and how I think I heard you say in there that if conditions change, then it might require this to go back to the Planning Commission. It would the change of the organization itself that it was issued to not be a significant change that would require such a thing.
So it was issued to the federal government. It's still the federal government in there. They changed names. They changed agency names. The name change on this occurred at least 15 years ago. So it's been a long time they've been in there under this conditional use permit. No, you can't pull back a conditional use permit. And in fact, you can even change the law in the meantime, but they're a legal non-conforming use even after if you made changes that would make it so you couldn't give the same conditional use permit today. If you found a violation of a use permit, you do very much like the mayor described in the inspection. You'd say, okay, it looks like you're in non-compliance with this, and you'd bring them into compliance. If they refuse to come into compliance, if it was a normal tenant, then there's the possibility of actually revoking a conditional use permit. The problem with a federal agency is that you run into the supremacy clause. The supremacy clause it comes from Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution. It basically says that federal law is the law of the land, and it trumps local law, it trumps state law, it trumps city law whenever there's a conflict. Now, sometimes there won't be a conflict, but if it's something that seeks to regulate or discriminate or obstruct a core federal function, you will usually lose that battle on the local level. And so there's plenty of states and cities out there trying to fight different angles of the supremacy clause, and we'll know how successful they are in the years to come. They're all litigating now, but the general rule is if you try to obstruct a core function of the federal government through a local land use law, then you're going to run into that supremacy clause. And so just to make it a little bit clearer, so the federal government should comply with land use laws that are generally applicable to everybody. And so let's suppose they had a land use law that says you can't let your weeds grow in the yard. Well, you can make the federal government live up to that, and the court will support you because it's not contradicting or obstructing their core government function. They ought to mow the grass just like everybody else. But if you say, well, yeah, but you can't do your job as an agency, a federal agency, that's where you run into it. And that's where I think you're going to have problems. Even if you did have like the mayor said, I don't think we have any evidence of a violation of the conditional use permit. But if you did, you'd still run into that supremacy clause.
Thank you for that clarification. One of the things that this brought up, and thank you for everyone for bringing this up, is I am a business owner in Roy, and I actually have a fire inspection every year, and that's how their city runs it. I think that's a bit onerous for a kind of what is essentially a retail space, but something between nothing and every year might seem reasonable, and I think maybe that's something our council could think about and with the administration. I know we've had fires in our city, and one I think maybe even a couple weeks ago in a local or in or nearby a local business. So might be something we could consider going forward.
Chair, actually, glad you brought that up. That's something that we're going to be taking some steps toward putting more resourcing toward that exact thing in the upcoming budget. So glad you said it. I left two things out. If the council is willing to let me add to it, I'll defer to you on that. Thank you. Another thing that I did that I think is important is there was a meeting in Washington, D.C. amongst mayors through the National League of Cities and Towns. And they hosted a session. It was a closed-door session with a panel of attorneys and mayors. And I was not there, so I reached out to a local mayor who was. And I said, who also attended the session. And I asked this mayor for a meeting so that we could talk specifically about what he learned in that. And what he explained to me is exactly the counsel that I've received, and that every mayor in the country in that room, from multiple and numerous counsel from different NGOs and different organizations, said the same things about supremacy clause, said the same things about limits and authority, said the same things about, but there is that fire code and the building code and inspection piece So that's the area that we know we have that authority and that we're looking into. So that was another thing that I've done beyond just our own council is I've talked with a lot of different mayors who have gotten a lot of different counsel from countless other council, including their own. And everything, all of the input I've gotten has reflected the exact same input that I've gotten from ours. So thank you for that, Gary. But I also want to bring up one thing that I have not done. And I don't think that we've talked about it enough here, is we've talked a lot about the criminals and the bad people are doing bad things, and I don't think anybody here wants them to stay, and we should take care of that. We've talked about our pathway program and how we're providing a pathway for citizenship for as many people as we can who qualify. And to your comments, Linda, Councilmember Lundell said something that I agreed with, which is proof that no matter how much you disagree, there's always something we can agree on and work on together, right? He said not everybody has a pathway to citizenship. Not everybody qualifies, and you're right. And that's where we're talking about right now is everybody's worried about those that don't have a pathway, who are good people, can't find a way toward, or an easy way or a reasonable way or an affordable way. And that's what's broken. That's what's causing all of this. Beyond the changes at the federal level and elections and different directives and mandates, that problem of not fixing the system and having a pathway for everybody is what's putting every single city in this country in the same position right now. And I think that's something that I'm going to do more of, is I'm going to get more aggressive and more vocal with our congressional delegation around a solution to federal immigration policy. And you're going to see a lot more of me speaking more forcefully publicly about that, because that is where the onus lies. That is where the responsibility and the accountability is. And that's something that we're not talking about here, but if everyone here would start singing from the same sheet of music and put the accountability where it belongs in Congress in Washington, D.C., and if every state would do that, maybe we could get somewhere. Because the fact that it has been kicked down the road for so long is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And so if anybody wants to join me in that march, I'll be there with you, and I could use the help. But you can expect to see more of that from me moving forward. Thank you.
Mayor, just on that point, I heard yesterday, I don't know how far down the road it is, but there's a bipartisan initiative to sponsor a thing called, I think they call it the Dignity Act, that does exactly what you were just talking about. So, and there is broad support. So maybe we're getting there. Anyway, other council member comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a question, I believe to Glenn or to Gary, which is if you wouldn't mind reminding me of the process of what is the follow-up on a conditional use permit where there is some background listed. And again, I'll quote from the one that's in front of me, which is for the facility that we're talking about, which is, as I said earlier, for fire safety, this portion of the building will be sprinklered to the satisfaction of the fire marshal. So where would that documentation be found?
I don't know where it would be found today. I will say that 25 years ago, wherever it was found is no longer found. We can't even find the conditional use permit itself. What we can find is the minutes of the meeting and the terms of the conditional use permit based on those minutes. And so we don't have record of what the fire marshal determined 25, 26 years ago. But basically, when you have a problem with a conditional use permit, it's usually based on some sort of obvious violation. The presumption is sometime in the beginning of that 26 years, there was a building permit issued, and they looked at the sprinkling system, and it was adequate, and that's how it normally happened.
But right now, Ogden City, we don't have any documentation.
At least we haven't found it. It's been a long time.
We just have the minutes, but we have no documentation that there was an inspection for for fire safety. This portion of the building will be sprinklered to the satisfaction of the fire marshal.
Yeah, I think the best evidence you have is that it was given a inspection. In other words, they wouldn't have gotten a use permit to actually move into the building until all that was done. So it would have been done while it was being built.
But we don't have any documentation other than the minutes that we all have pulled up.
I've only looked for the conditional use permit. I haven't actually looked for that building inspection. And so,
Great.
so maybe it exists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Lopez.
So I just want to say thank you so much for looking for a different way to support the immigrants here in Utah. And if you want to looking for someone to fight with you, I'm willing to do it. Those are the things we need to fight for. Fight in a huge and more bigger level, and fight for a way to get legal status for everyone. Well, mostly for the people who need it. But thank you so much for that.
Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We are adjourned.